There's a change coming to Social Security in 2032. Most people won't feel it until the month their check changes, and by then, the decisions that actually matter will already be behind them. My name is Robert. I've spent years poring over Social Security policy, just breaking down what the numbers actually say in plain English, so you can make your own decisions before the headlines make them for you. The 2026 Social Security Trustees Report came out a few weeks ago. Inside it, one date moved by 3 months. That doesn't sound like much. But by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why those 3 months matter, what they have to do with the 2027 COLA announcement coming this October, and, most importantly, what you can do with that information right now. Before we get to the date, let's get clear on what we're discussing, because Social Security is running out of money is a phrase people have heard so many times it's lost all meaning. Social Security isn't one program, it's several. The one that pays your monthly retirement check is called OASI, Old Age and Survivors Insurance. That's the trust fund we're talking about today. OASI works on a simple in and out system. Money comes in from payroll taxes, the FICA line on every pay stub you ever received. Money goes out to about 53 million retirees and survivors every month. For decades, more came in than went out. The extra built up in a reserve, the trust fund. That reserve started shrinking in 2021, and the official projection now says it hits zero in the fourth quarter of 2032, about 6.5 years from today. Now, and this matters, the previous projection said 2033. The new one says Q4 2032. That's 3 months sooner. 3 months might not sound dramatic, but here's why it's worth paying attention to. Projections don't usually move backward. When a depletion date accelerates, it means the underlying math deteriorated faster than the actuaries expected. That's a signal. And we're going to spend the rest of this video understanding what's driving that signal. But first, let me address the question I get most often. Why did the date move? Most people guess inflation. That's a reasonable guess, but it's wrong, at least directionally. Inflation actually pushes more payroll tax dollars into the system because wages rise and people pay more in. The trust fund gets a small tailwind from inflation, not a headwind. Most people also guess the stock market. Also wrong. The trust fund doesn't invest in stocks. It holds special issue treasury bonds. Very safe, very low yield. The real driver, and this is straight from the trustees' report, is demographics, specifically birth rates. In 1960, there were about 5 workers paying into Social Security for every 1 retiree drawing benefits. Today, that ratio is under 3 to 1. By 2032, it's projected to fall below 2.5 to 1. Fewer workers, more retirees living longer. The math hasn't balanced for years, and the imbalance is accelerating. That's what moved the date. But there's a second layer to this, and it connects directly to something happening this October, something almost everyone reads the wrong way. We'll get there in a minute. First, let me show you what actually happens when the trust fund runs out, because the reality isn't what most headlines imply. Here's the actual language from the 2026 Trustees Report. I'm going to read it exactly. After the projected trust fund reserve depletion in 2032, continuing income would be sufficient to pay 78% of scheduled benefits. 78%. Social Security does not disappear. The program does not end. But, and this is significant, if Congress does nothing between now and 2032, your check gets reduced by roughly 22%. Let me put that in real numbers. If your benefit is $2,070 a month, roughly the current average, a 22% cut brings you to about $1,614. That's a $456 monthly gap, Over a year, that's nearly $5,500. That number, the 0.78 multiplier, is the one you should write down. Not the depletion date, not the headlines, the multiplier. And this is where the 2027 COLA enters the picture, and it's the detail almost everyone misses. COLA stands for Cost of Living Adjustment. Every October, based on third quarter inflation data, the Social Security Administration announces the COLA for the following year. In 2022, it was 5.9%. In 2023, the largest in 40 years, 8.7%. 2024 brought 3.2. 2025 was 2.5. 2026, 2.2. Early estimates for the 2027 COLA, based on current inflation trends, point somewhere in the 2.2 to 2.6% range. We won't know the exact number until October. Here's what almost nobody connects. Every COLA increase does two things at once. It puts more money in your pocket, and it accelerates the drain on the trust fund. When 53 million people all get a 2.4% raise, even a small percentage on a massive base, the outflow jumps by tens of billions of dollars. So when the 2027 COLA announcement comes and the headlines read, "Benefits Rising," that is good news for your monthly budget. But for the depletion date, it quietly pulls it closer. Now, here's where it gets counterintuitive. You'd think a higher COLA would soften the impact of the eventual cut, and in one narrow sense, it does. We'll run the math in a moment, but in another sense, it actually makes the planning problem harder. I'll show you why. Let's run the numbers with the 2027 COLA factored in. Say the COLA lands at 2.4%. The average benefit, currently about $2,070, rises to roughly $2,120. Apply the 78% multiplier. You get about $1,653. Compare that to $1,614 without the COLA. The COLA buys you about $39 more per month after the cut. $39. That's what a 2.4% raise actually delivers after the 78% adjustment. It helps. It is not the solution. And here's the planning problem it creates. The gap between your full benefit and your cut-adjusted benefit grows wider in absolute dollars, even as the percentage stays the same. $2,120 minus $1,653 is $467. That's a larger monthly gap than the $456 gap before the COLA. The COLA gives you a higher number, but the distance between the number you expect and the number current law guarantees, that distance widens. This number, $39, seems small, but in a few minutes you'll see why. Understanding this math now, before October, before the headlines, is actually the whole game. It's not about the $39. It's about what the $39 reveals. First, let's talk about what you can actually do with this information. Because information without a plan is just noise. If you haven't started Social Security yet, you're 55, 60, 64, the 2032 date gives you a variable your parents never had to consider. Here's the two-path math, simplified. Path 1, claim at 62. You'll get a permanently reduced benefit, roughly 30% less than your full retirement age amount. But you'll collect more checks before 2032, about 120 monthly checks before the projected depletion window. Path 2, wait until 70. You'll earn delayed retirement credits, about 8% more per year. You wait past full retirement age. Your monthly check will be substantially larger, but you'll only collect around 24 checks before the 2032 date. There's no universal right answer. Your health, your other savings, whether you're married, your tax situation, these all matter. I'm not going to pretend one path is always better. What I will say is this. The 2032 date is now a variable worth putting on the table when you run your own numbers. It wasn't on anyone's radar 5 years ago. It belongs there now. If you're already receiving Social Security, the checks are coming. You've made your claiming decision. The math is actually simpler, even if it doesn't feel that way. You can't control the depletion date. You can't control Congress. You can't control the COLA percentage or the 78% number, but you can control whether you plan for it. Here's what I mean. If your spending plan is built around your full Social Security benefit today, and that benefit could drop by 22% in 2032, you have a gap in the plan even if you don't feel it yet. The move that makes sense regardless of your situation. Build your retirement, spending around the 78% number now, while you have 6 years to make small adjustments. Treat anything above that, the extra 22%, as cushion, not baseline. This isn't about fear, it's about giving yourself time. But there's something bigger here, something that goes beyond your individual claiming strategy or your monthly budget. And it's the part of this conversation that almost never makes it into the headlines. Let me draw out why. The 78% cut is what current law says happens if Congress does nothing. But Congress rarely does nothing when tens of millions of voters are affected. There are 3 general paths. Path A, Congress raises revenue. This could mean increasing the payroll tax rate. Right now it's 12.4%, split between worker and employer. Or it could mean raising or eliminating the cap on earnings subject to Social Security tax. In 2026, that cap sits around $176,000. Path B, Congress reduces benefits. This could mean raising the full retirement age further. It's already moved from 65 to 67. It could mean means testing, where higher income retirees see reduced benefits. Or it could mean a change to the COLA formula itself, switching from CPIW to a chained CPI, which would produce smaller annual adjustments. Path C, Congress waits until the last possible moment. Then the 78% number becomes reality, at least temporarily, until some fix is passed. Anyone who claims to know which path happens is guessing. My point is different. You can prepare for all 3 paths with one move, and that move has nothing to do with predicting Washington. Here it is. This takes 60 seconds. Step 1. Go to ssa.gov/mysocialsecurity. Create an account or log in. Find your estimated monthly benefit. Write that number down. Step 2. Multiply that number by 0.78. Write down the result. That's the number current law guarantees starting in Q for 2032. Step 3. When the 2027 COLA is announced this October, take your new COLA adjusted benefit, multiply by 0.78, and update your number. Step 4. Build your retirement spending plan around that lower number, not the full benefit, the 78% version. If Congress fixes the trust fund and the cut never happens, you have extra money. That's a good outcome. If the cut does happen, you've already adjusted. You're not scrambling in 2032 alongside everyone else. Information plus time equals options. That's the entire philosophy behind this channel. When the 2027 COLA gets announced this October, the headlines will be simple. Benefits rise 2.4%. Bigger checks coming in January. And those headlines will be accurate. But inside that same government report, the projection will be updated. The depletion date might move again, forward or back. The 78% might become 76 or stay where it is. That's the number almost no headline will mention. Now you know to look for both. The COLA percentage tells you what changes next year. The 78% tells you what current law guarantees starting in 2032. One is a headline. The other is a planning number. Both come from the same source. Only one matters for the long game. I started this channel because retirement policy is complicated enough without someone trying to sell you something in the middle of explaining it. Every video here is built the same way. Here's what the numbers say. Here's what they don't say. Here's what you can do with them. If that approach works for you, subscribe. New breakdowns every Tuesday and Saturday. And if you've got a question, what's the one thing about Social Security or retirement planning that you've never gotten a straight answer on? Drop it in the comments. I read them, and they shape what I cover next. One last thing, and this matters. This is education, not advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a tax professional. I'm not telling you what to do with your money or when to claim. I'm showing you what the numbers say so you can have a smarter conversation with someone who is qualified to advise you. Run your own numbers. Talk to a professional. Make your own calls.